It's story time, kids. This is called Tiffany. Not been together a week. Under the sheets. Knowing the same happened to me, he starts to tell me about his friend, Tiffany. How she was abused. Mentally, physically, emotionally. And how she feels guilty for how it's affected both her and her family. He asks if we can write a list for Tiffany which consists of reasons why it was not her fault. A reminder, she deserves to exist. He puts the pen in mine. I understand. So I begin to write reasons of why it was completely out of her hands. It was not Tiffany's fault because she was coerced, gaslit. He didn't listen when she didn't ask for it. She was scared and in denial about how bad things had become, because before it turned evil, she thought maybe he could be the one she couldn't run. He'd chase her down before she reached anyone. She had nowhere to run. He'd isolated her from everyone. He created a dependency in him by pushing everything else away. Rid her life of any value, her self-worth made to pay the cost of his rising position day after day. He took her love like she was in debt to him, giving nothing in return except shame. Given liability anytime things were on the rocks, he made her take the blame for things that shouldn't be condemned. Inflated his worth to diminish hers, grandiosity to condescend, no respect. Intimidated, undermined, bullied, threatened, judged with every move, watched her every move he had to approve, and if he disproved, oh, how she knew. Terrified of the consequences, so into a scapegoat she was made. Whilst he played the victim, let her believe she was becoming crazed, he remained unfazed, creating confusion through his manipulative ways. He lit the gas and turned it up as far as it would go. Scorched perceptions of the world, charred the meaning of the word no. He said mean things as if they were a joke. Normalized unhealthy behaviour. Made it appear acceptable. And when her Catherine wheel of tears spun out, he would insist she was making a spectacle. He put himself on a pedestal. Made out she was jealous of other girls. But how could she be green-eyed when the colour had drained through her cries? He projected his fears through his lies. Her love was weaponized. She sacrificed herself for him like he expected her to do. Became a shadow of herself, and when he took away the last glimpse of light, the shadow disappeared too. Nothing was as it appeared. The person she loved never truly existed. But he was the only person she had to turn to, and so the abuse persisted, only getting more twisted if she resisted. Broken on the inside, outwardly holding it together. If cracks began to show, he sealed them with unbearable pressure until there appeared to be no damage whatsoever. Superficial measures. It was not Tiffany's fault because he lied to everyone. He told her he loved her each time the abuse was done in front of others. His character was easygoing and fun. To speak out about abuse, it takes more than just being strong. For a moment, you have to believe you are not wrong. Believe that life will go on and get better. It was not Tiffany's fault because she didn't want to let her family down. He'd run her confidence and individuality into the ground. In an effort to protect them, she'd pretend when they were around. You wouldn't blame someone who was held under water until they drowned. She was being suffocated. Forced to endure pain. Until she was so numb, the treatment was tolerated. His affection activated like a jukebox. And captivated by the change of tune, she would dance along his track, hoping it wouldn't end soon, but she paid for this number. And his moment was opportune to reinforce hope. that somewhere in there something had awoke, that things were going to change. But moments after, silence. And then silence turns to rage. He sets the mood with his dehuman eyes, and she's back to earning some small change. It was not Tiffany's fault because he didn't want her. Not really. He just wanted control. No one can be blamed for seeking love. It's literally everybody's goal to belong, to feel whole. This was all she knew of love, and she wanted to believe in it. She knew to make a successful relationship, you have to be willing to commit. Anytime she'd resist, he'd tighten his grip, forced to submit. Abuse is never the victim's fault. Whether child or adult, relationship or cult, abuse is never the victim's fault. I hand him the list. He takes it with a breath, turns to sit facing me. He says, all of the reason why you, Jemima, weren't to blame and aren't to feel guilty. With only my tattoos to keep me warm, I felt exposed in more ways than one, as I realised what I'd done. Tiffany may not be real, but her situation very much is. It's easy to get caught up in our own perspective rather than seeing it from someone else's. So the next time you need to, when your trauma is causing you frustration, try to consider what your advice to Tiffany would be if it was her in your situation.